Old Dominion hosted Marshall as 2.5 point favorites. I took Old Dominion, you took Marshall, and you were right. Old Dominion continues to slide ever since I decided to, not arbitrarily, but the second I decided to get high on Old Dominion, they just want to completely let me down in that spot. The second I think, oh, Old Dominion +8 or +600 to win the Sun Belt, that's a good idea. Now all of a sudden, Old Dominion is not even bowl eligible. They needed that win, and then they needed another win next week to become that. They did have 500 total yards on offense, but just
Turnovers,
yeah,
tough
I
luck.
mean, two turnovers once again, just been a major problem for Old Dominion. Can't even we won't even get into the turnover margin in the last 3 games for Old Dominion, but it's bad and it makes a huge difference. I mean, Colton Joseph, 156 yards on the ground, 217 through the air, and a touchdown there, but just Marshall. Marshall just kind of got to do what they wanted. They were able to put the ball in the end zone. They took care of the football. Braxton was unbelievable, through the air and on the ground. We both talked about, these run defenses being pretty abysmal, and it was the quarterbacks. It wasn't even A.J. Turner that really kind of dominated. It wasn't Aaron Young for Old Dominion. Well, actually, he did have 112 yards also. But, yeah, this was both teams had over 250 yards on the ground. There's an offensive showcase here. Old Dominion once again falling up short, and now Marshall still controls their own destiny here in the Sun Belt, which good for them, man. Good for them. This is a team that I had my doubts about heading into the season, and right now they're 8-3. And without Woolridge for Louisiana, this is a team that I could see winning the Sun Belt. Moving forward, if they continue to run the football well, if Braxton still continues to play well, they got to go to James Madison next week, which is a really tough game. And for James Madison's sake, you really wish you would have won last weekend against Appalachian State. So you would have a chance here to, potentially make it to the Sun Belt Championship. But man, good stuff from Marshall. Old Dominion continues to slide. I don't have their turnover margin stats in front of me. Maybe I can find that. But what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, you said a lot of it too, especially with the Sun Belt. I think if you're Marshall, you're looking back to that Georgia Southern game, and you were a 21-point collapse if you just didn't give up 21 points in that fourth quarter from being undefeated in the Sun Belt. I know the Sun Belt is a little bit down this year. I get that, sure, but it still is something you should be proud of. You mentioned a team that we were skeptical of coming the season was this Marshall and Charles Huff, but man, oh man, 8-3. You're out of conference losses or to Virginia Tech on the road, to Ohio State on the road, and then obviously the road loss, 20-point collapse, right, that you had against Georgia Southern. And all of a sudden you're playing great football. Braylon Braxton is awesome. You talked about him. It was good to see A.J. Turner back and healthy a little bit, although he wasn't a crazy explosive game changer. Regardless, though, it was a big win. And you had the lead, and you gave it up, and maybe you saw the writing on the wall come back because we've seen it before, and you responded with a couple touchdown drives, which was awesome. And you got to give them a ton of credit for going on the road in a slim game with the margins. And I think you were, road dogs against an Old Dominion football team, and you got to win here. So it's something you should absolutely be proud of, because I don't know how many teams right now, how many conferences are just like winning them in type thing. And I think for Marshall and Louisiana, two teams should be absolutely proud of themselves with a chance to go to the championship game with just a win in week 14.
Yeah, Old Dominion is currently 115th in the country. They have, and there's a bunch of teams that are tied with 20 turnovers. But 20 turnovers when there's only like 10 teams in college football that have more turnovers than you. And I'm looking at these stats right here. 7 of them have come in your last 3 games when it mattered down the stretch, when you had a chance. After that Georgia Southern win, when you had a chance to potentially win some football games, scheduling was in your favor. You had some home games. You just blew it, man. You just blew it. So Old Dominion moving forward now, having Colton Joseph for the future of Old Dominion, I like that a lot. You just got to work on taking care of the football, obviously, but uh, so yeah, so it didn't happen for Old Dominion this year, getting to a bowl game, but I guess with the quarterback situation being a little bit more clear, moving forward into next season, where quarterback is not always a guarantee for a lot of these teams in the Sun Belt. Although there's been good quarterback play in the Sun Belt, I'll say this year, for some teams, but you gotta like what you're seeing from him. The upside with the legs and sometimes the explosive plays through the air. So I guess if you're an Old Dominion Monarch fan, then that's something definitely to hang your hat on. Moving forward into next season. But Marshall, good job.